Welcome to the ROI Masterclass, the podcast where vision meets strategy and bold moves create measurable results. I'm Liat Siegel, interior designer and ROI strategist with 17 years of experience. I help businesses transform properties and ideas into high-performing assets. This show is specifically for real estate investors, hospitality operators, and boutique developers who aren't afraid to take risks, challenge the status quo, and demand a return on every decision they make. Each and every week, we talk with innovators and leaders across industries about the strategies and the insights and really all the unconventional thinking that turns potential into profit every single time. If you believe that smart design, decisive leadership, and strategic risk are the keys to real ROI, you're in the exact right place. Let's dive in. Today's guest is Brady Irwin, a bootstrap entrepreneur and real estate investor who has worn just about every hat in the business, from wholesaling and multifamily syndications to land development and commercial acquisitions. After losing millions on a land development deal just over a year ago, Brady bounced back with even more energy, channeling his experience into a new venture, Sinnet, a peer-to-peer social network that combines AI, GIS market intelligence, and nationwide data into one unified platform. Think of it as LinkedIn meets CoStar meets ChatGPT for real estate. With relentless persistence and a drive to innovate, Brady is redefining how investors connect, discover deals, and scale in today's market. Thank you so much for joining us, Brady. I am so excited for this episode.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on here. Thanks for the intro as well. I think you nailed it.
Amazing. So tell us your story, how you lost everything and how that has shaped the way that you have built your business today.
So I stumbled into real estate in 2016 by accident, had a construction company in Corpus Christi, wanted to move back home to Austin, which is where I was born and raised. And I didn't know really much about marketing and I needed to make some cash. And since I knew the construction side of things, I got on Indeed, probably just like anybody else, scouting jobs as I'm coming back into a new market, which was home for me. And I stumbled across a wholesaling company and it all just kind of grew from there. I ended up wholesaling a residential deal out of Dallas area. In the amount of 2 weeks that I was there, I made like 20 grand. And I was just, okay, there's no overhead, there's no construction. I don't have any guys to manage. I just flipped a piece of paper and the light bulb went off. So I just ran with that. I was fortunate enough to be around a group of guys that, had flipped and invested in over, I think at that time it was like 3,000 properties between the three of them, all the way from California to Austin. And so I just spent the next 12 months, learning absolutely everything. I was just a sponge. And then I decided to take that same model there, not recreate the wheel, and go build my own team. And so from that, I then organically grew into just doing my own remodels and then doing tear downs and then doing new construction, single family homes and duplexes over in the east side of Austin. And then I found myself raising capital for other developers. And then I found myself doing hard money and, it keeps going. And then I got into commercial organically. I did truck stops. I've done storage. I've done RV parks, commercial retail, flex, found myself in billboards, which is a value add play in some of these commercial opportunities that I was in, and then ended up stumbling into land development. And my first big land deal that my first land deal I ever did was I found a property that was an absentee owner of Berkeley, California, and they didn't know what they have. This was in my backyard. It was 80 acres, and they wanted, 25 cents on the dollar for it. So I contracted it, take it to my lender, and he gave me 100% financing plus 6 months of interest reserves. That was only $500 in my pocket. So I had 6 months to sell this deal. And what I did was, at that time, this was 2020, 2021, I needed to market and I needed to sell this property because it's a non-recourse loan. So it's not like I really had much to lose besides $500, but I knew that I was really deep in equity on this thing, which was great and why my lenders threw the money at me. And I ended up posting it on Facebook Marketplace, believe it or not. And I bought the property. I was all in at 1.5, including the interest reserves plus the principal that I had on the note. And I sold it for $3.3 million in 4 months.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And, I didn't do any sort of real feasibility. I was just buying something that was deep that fell into my pocket. And then as I went through that, my buyers were asking all these questions and I already had a pulse of what that was. And so anyways, from there, that's how I ran into land development. And so I've focused on that the past 4 years, done a lot of like our bread and butter was we find land and we go get it entitled, highest and best use, whether it's RV, it's a multifamily, it's an infill, a rural development, 1 acre lots, whatever it may be. And so we did that successfully, did quite a few projects. And then I got stuck in a deal out in Northwest Austin to where I raised, the equity in it. I was pretty liquid at the time. I was playing in an arena that was a little bit bigger than what I should have been playing in. So I got stuck with taking care of the interest reserves and had the projects coming on. So I burned through quite a bit of capital, got stuck holding the note, and had a group of investors come in, kind of extorted me for all of my trade secrets, engineers and stuff, and ended up kind of kicking me out of my own deal, went behind my back, bought the deal out. And long story short, it was a blessing in disguise. I hit a very, very hard reset, and it really changed the way that I looked at real estate, taking my first loss of that nature there. And essentially I actually just had my 2-year-old, and she was maybe 3-4 months old after we had just got wiped out. Car sold, all the materialistic things, I had some value. So it was hard times, but it was the most humbling time of my life because the reflection side of things of being able to, okay, where did we go wrong here? But then more importantly, looking at it from a 30,000 foot view of what could we have done better? And then I started stumbling into the tools that we currently use today and how do we connect with each other? And that led me to building out my passion project here. And it was more or less an internal tool, Sinnet, short for syndication network, to basically unify all the tools that we use today and to bring a social network to real estate, which kind of surprises me that we don't have that.
No, there isn't anything out there like that. Yeah.
So then I went down that rabbit hole and started building this internally. And I was like, wait, I can monetize this. I know a lot of people that I shared it with were like, man, this is really cool. I'd love to have access. So then I was like, okay, I want to build the best product as possible. I want to get a bunch of investors and board of advisors that are investors to build a very robust platform to fill the gaps and the needs that we are currently missing today. And more or less, it's fragmented tools. How we connect. There's text messages and Slacks and LinkedIn for this and Facebook for that and all these groups. But what I've come to find out about the social network side of those platforms we use currently is that there's a lot of tire kickers. So you see a lot of people kind of resort to these private groups, but when you look at that, you're still missing all of your other tools. So with all that being said, I just decided to go and do something here, and it's gained a lot of momentum. We've raised quite a bit of capital. Really excited about getting this thing to market and in the hands of users, your users, and people that are in our industry, because I think it serves a wide range of versatility in either aspect, from deal sourcing to just simply being able to connect and be able to manage your deals and bring technology into real estate and advance that as fast as AI is growing. And we're still using basically washed data from Zillow that agents have basically inputted themselves, and Zillow is turning around and selling it back to them. And most of the platforms that are there are primarily retail products. That's where you're going to take, a client of yours, or, you're can't find anything off market, or you're just getting into the real estate, industry. And so where do you go? You just go to what we're currently used to doing. But when you look at the statistics and the way that deals are done, like investors, developers, and how you find deeply discounted opportunities are off market. So I started looking at, what's the percentage of off market and on market deals done in the United States? It was more than 53%. I was like, wow.
Wow.
So who's capturing that? So that's what I wanted to focus on, was let's focus on building a product of, we're not going to compete with the MLS, right? We don't want to syndicate with MLS. We just want to be like the prerequisite to the open market, give you a social network to create your groups, connect, get notifications and buy box notifications directly on your phone, and to be able to have a very intuitive, data-driven map to where you can find property owners by typing in a query in AI, which is our Scout GPT, which is our flagship product. It's very, very fascinating. Be able to do your due diligence instead of having to rely on ChatGPT today, which is not tied. Its brain is very vast. Ours is tied to nationwide property data. That's all it knows. So things like an investor, developer, land use attorney, and things of that nature. And so with all that said, I know that was maybe a lot, but that's kind of the start of my career where things went south, the rebuttal and the rebound coming from that. That is, there's just like this continuous drive that just thumps inside of me that kind of freaks me out sometimes, just because I'm just 110% every single day and it just keeps compounding. But yeah, a little bit about myself and what I'm doing today.
It's fascinating to me when people share about the struggles that they've gone through to help those that are also currently going through struggles, or, to prepare them in case they do, because it's a difficult thing to share, having hit rock bottom and now finding your way out. It must have been such a difficult, challenging time where you questioned everything. What did you learn? How did you come out of it? And how have you applied that into what you're doing today?
I guess one is just my nature. I just don't stop. I don't give up. Like, I really love challenges. I like being put into a box that I don't know any of the corners, and then to try to go find those corners. But I guess the best way to explain it is being able to see past, none of us are perfect, and, we all have to kind of start somewhere. And if you continue to stand on a pedestal and not knowing that there's another one to leap from, and there's no attempt to want to try to fail. I think the humility side of it is that what people have to, in my opinion, what I've learned is just, go fail as many possible times as you can. Because I promise you won't make the same mistake, but I guess it's just getting that first initiative of failing. But, it's changed. I've become a little bit more conservative in the sense, but conservative in the areas of being more hyper-focused on certain aspects of real estate instead of trying to capture and organically jump from one to another part of opportunities that real estate present every single day. So yeah, I think that.
Would you describe it more as like shiny object, that before you were kind of like saw so many opportunities, so much potential, so much money to be made, and you were kind of just jumping from one thing to the other, rather than what you were saying just now is the hyper focus in one thing, in one aspect?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, it's the shiny object. It's, like which one, I was always trying to figure out, like which part of real estate do I like better than the other? Like which one am I really, really good at? And then just trying to stick with it. And so that's what kind of just led to all these things. But I think ultimately after 10 years and going through getting my teeth kicked in and losing everything, like the tech side of things is building the actual tools to become more efficient. It took me all this time to figure that out, but eventually I was able to find that out and still be able to cater to every aspect across the board. But more importantly, instead of trying to do deals myself or trying to build a portfolio like everybody else is doing, it's like, I don't have a tech background at all. I've started to, build some of those skill sets, but it's like, how do we create something that is just so damn cool that everybody's just missing, unify it, and give everybody an edge?
Because there's nothing out there. There's no unified place, at least not that I'm aware of, where you can find off-market deals. It's a lot of sales calls. It's having a sales team reach out and find deals. And I mean, I think that there's still some sort of manual output that still needs to be done because there are people that don't know they want to sell. But I think it's really great, especially people who are wholesaling those deals and potentially putting that on your platform. If you can walk us through what that looks like, and if I'm correct in what I'm saying, that would be great if you could share that with our audience.
Yeah, absolutely. So Sinnet works, it's pretty straightforward. I've just added a couple of layers in there to make it more just real estate geared. So, there's a paywall that you go through. It's a subscription base. And when you look at the tools you use today and you add up the amount of subscriptions, I bet that we're probably 70% cheaper than what most are using. We're anywhere from $200 to $300 a month, and you get all the same tools that you currently use and more. But so once you go through the paywall, you go through what I've set up as a buy box. Every user has a buy box. So as deals come into the platform, our AI is going to be able to score those deals on a threshold and be able to deliver them directly to you. And again, all these deals, they're not coming from the MLS. They're coming straight from either a property owner, a wholesaler, a broker, an agent who want to pre-screen their deals in front of thousands and thousands of potential buyers nationwide, or investors or brokers. And now you can, instead of getting them in an email, you just get them directly as like a social media notification. And that gets plugged into your CRM to manage your deal flow. But after you do that, you're going to go straight over to the newsfeed. And the newsfeed looks identical to like a Reddit or like a Facebook or like a LinkedIn. And so you can go in there and interact. You can make posts, say, hey, I have a buyer in search of in this market here. And I'm sure that somebody within the platform, as large as we're going to be, is going to be able to interact with you on a social basis. There's private messaging. There's there's comments. You can, share market trends. Then it gets, where it gets really interesting is when we jump over to our marketplace. Our marketplace is driven by Scout GPT. And Scout GPT is, our brain of AI that, has over 168 million parcels, covers the entire nation. It's got over 350 million data points in regards to property owner history, transactions, equity, debt, who holds the note. You've got GIS layers in there. So instead of having to go down to the county or, use either land ID or I think MLS only has like flood layer data on it. You'll be able to figure out, show, nearby builders on a live map, see who's building it, look at their website, flood zones, zoning, future land use, water, wastewater lines where available. That's really big for development, is understanding where that stuff is at. And it's all publicly available, but trying to source that, and people that are not very familiar with GIS or maybe people that are trying to venture into it, is such a pain. And not every municipality actually has those geospatial layers built into it. So it's like, well, let's add that in there too, because we need that data.
For our audience that doesn't know what GIS is, or they're just getting into all of this, can you explain more about that?
Yeah, GIS is just a geographic information system. So what it does essentially is it takes 9 times out of 10 county engineers will go in and work with whatever cities that are in these counties, and they will create a data set showing anything from like flood, manholes, roads, traffic count, overhead utilities, things like that. And so what they've combined all that to is just, again, geographic information system. So that's the GIS side of it, and how they do, and how you're actually able to review that data is that they put it onto like a live map, so you can interact with it. You can turn on layers, you can turn off layers, and be able to see certain data points with any particular area that you may be looking at a property, or whatever the case may be. And so it's kind of good that you bring that up, because I'm sure that there's probably a mix of 50-50 of people that are familiar with GIS and the other 50 that are not. But that's the other goal with this is like, there's tools out there that people are using today that give people an edge, and tools that, the other 50% actually probably needs, but they just don't know about. So I guess somewhat trying to level the playing field, may just, happen naturally here. But I think it's very essential that, if you want to be a better broker or an agent, or you want to have a better design firm, or be a better developer, being able to have a very, let's say, robust due diligence and being able to minimize your risk as much as possible, you can only do that with having all of these tools here.
Absolutely. And when looking for the best deal, how do you go about that? What tools are available within the platform to help your users?
To find, potential opportunities?
Yeah, and to be able to vet it. Is there something built in within that? Is there a plan to do so?
Yeah. So if you're already using ChatGPT, you'd use our Scout GPT. So half the screen is the chat, the other half is a live interactive map. And let's say that you're looking for, residential opportunities in a Dallas-Fort Worth area with absentee owners. You would simply type that into a chat, and our Scout is going to go through our entire database and find and compound you a list in a matter of seconds, as opposed to using, probably 2 or 3 other platforms to do that. But what else is beautiful about it is that we're providing skip tracing all built into the platform. So not every property is going to have it, but we're using some of the best technology that's available today that most brokers, agents, and operators are having to pay for, but baking it all into one. So, let's say we find a property. It came back with 100, results. We found the top 10, and each deal is scored based off your buy box from the get-go. So it's going to learn how you source deals. It's going to learn how you interact with data. It's just going to make you a lot more efficient. So then you can further move it down an acquisition pipeline, and tell me, find me comps, for each one of these. And then you can go and it's going to search your database again. It's going to tell you comps, and you're going to start building out very robust feasibility reports for multiple properties all at once. So then once you go through that, you can start, working in whether you're going to do a construction, a remodel. Is this a deeply discounted opportunity? Like, what are my investment strategies here? And now it's going to start thinking like an investor. It's going to go off supply and demand. It's going to go off, nearby construction. It's going to pull permits. It's going to go through zoning. It's going to take in tons and tons of variables, and then be able to act as like a co-partner in that sense.
It's like, those people that messed you over, they did you the biggest favor by setting you on a path that's going to put you and everyone else that comes onto the platform way further.
Yeah.
Never thought possible.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I want to say this too, is like, what's beautiful about our platform is that there's no transactional friction with this, right? If you post a deal, you sell a deal on the platform, we don't charge a commission. We don't charge anything like that. It's just a subscription. We want to be the digital rails for real estate off market. Not saying that you can't use this for on market deals. You just will not find any on market deals. So the only place you'll be able to find any of these deals is going to be on our platform, which is the point of off market in this sense. And, most people might say, well, that's not off market. It's like, well, technically it is off market in this sense. It's no different than you sending an off market deal to an email blast of 1,000 potential buyers. It's still off market. But anyways, I can go down a rabbit hole on all these things, but we're getting closer to launch, and there's a couple of other things that are going to come with it that I think that a lot of people are going to find very, very valuable. And the goal is to bring everything underneath one hood and advance real estate out of the 2 decades of using the same data that it's just being recycled.
You've done so many deals and been on the construction side and design, renovation. How have you seen that impacts the ROI of a property? Like how well something is designed or how it's set up strategically?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's kind of a loaded one too. When we talk about design, when I was flipping homes and got into flipping homes, we just wanted to replicate what was already selling, right? It was a shaker cabinets, it was the quartz, countertops, it was the gray flooring and like the gray walls. And we knew that was like a sellable product. But then when you start looking at like the guys that were doing more high end, let's say luxury type flips, it seemed like obviously the buyer pool got a little bit smaller, but it actually expanded at the same time because you can get in there and do very nice high end, like maple type shiplapping and go with a higher, marble countertops and things like that. I mean, obviously your costs are going to go up a lot more, but to me, it's like, it can be very cookie cutter. In the sense, if you're just trying to make sure that you can flip a home and make sure that you sell it, or you get into the luxury remodeling aspect of it. And if you're a good designer, which I think that you are,
thank you. Appreciate that.
You already kind of have in mind like who your client is going to be, right? And you kind of have that rapport relationship in so much way, shape, or form to where you can kind of deliver a product that is almost guaranteed to sell based off whatever your potential client or customer at that time could be. But I've been out of that space for a while now. But when it does come to design, I think that I'm a good designer, but I don't think I'm as good as my fiance. At least I can't tell her that. But yeah, I mean, there's a clear difference of obviously, you have a top line finish out, you have like a medium finish out, and then you have like a lower finish out of things.
For me and what we do specifically, we are really designing for our clients, right?
Yeah.
Understanding what the market wants. It's understanding also now that, it was gray on gray on gray everything before, but now it's moving away from that. And I still see investors that are still using the same finishes that were big before, but not recognizing that things have shifted, things have evolved to the point where we need to update those things. We need to have standardized color schemes and finishes and fixtures and all of that, and specifications across, but it has to match the buyer. It has to match the market and what they're potentially wanting to make in terms of the profitability on that specific property. Yeah.
100%. What have you seen from, let's say, 24 months ago, from designing to where we're at today? Because I'm sure that as fast as technology grows and evolves, it seems like, the palatable interior design is it's just like a revolving door, right? So what have you seen that's been, I guess, very trendy in the sense, from let's say 2 years ago than today?
I think that we're moving away from the grays. I think that is the biggest shift that's happened. Yeah. It's coming more cream colors,
neutrals,
beige, which is a mix of gray and taupes and creams and stuff like that. And also bold colors. Like there are certain places, like in the bathroom, doing the bathroom entirely like one color, including the ceiling or living rooms or whatever. But it really depends on who the target demographic is. If you're fixing and flipping, you need to have a blank canvas for somebody to come in and say, oh, I can imagine myself in there without putting too much personality in the space.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe there's certain amenities that specific user, that specific buyer is looking for, and you adapt for that. So I never do a project or say a blanket statement, it has to be this way, without doing an analysis. You have to do a comp analysis. There's no design planning, there's no programming, there's no concept development without doing an analysis first on what other properties are doing in the area, what they have sold for, and how to get it to that level.
Right.
And maybe then some, and maybe up level it even more, because I can tell you, and what we're building out for investors is these ROI playbooks where it's done for you. It's already, this is what works. No investor is doing that. No investor is putting the money up front, or they're doing buying the finishes themselves and picking it out at Home Depot, but they don't have the trained eye to be able to put together the scheme and say, this is what is going to work for this buyer. So having that in your tool belt, like you're talking about tools within your network, the tools are the things that help us create efficiency and build ROI at the fastest, most scalable way possible. Repeatable, right?
Yeah.
Money is in repetition, knowing to do something well, and then just being able to repeat it again and again. I think that delivers the highest ROI.
Yeah, no, I 100%. You couldn't have said that any better. It's like, you could take these type of, finishes or, fixtures and whatnot, but if you don't actually have the right color that brings it all together.
It's in the nuance.
Yeah, no, exactly. It is.
Really in the nuance, like understanding, putting one type of metal for, lighting fixtures and another for all the plumbing, or how to mix and match metals on the cabinetry. It gives it an elevated, luxurious look that people can't say why they love it, but they do, and they'll be willing to spend, even if, and this is something that I've spoken to so many investors about, even if it's only $50 a month more in rent, how much does that impact NOI? It's massive. Your cap rate is improved. Everything is improved, and therefore you can pull out more money or get in your investors bigger take homes. And it's so powerful to have this data, this knowledge from the get-go before you start doing any value add, right? So that you make sure to maximize that return.
No, 100%. It's like, if you go with like a C grade or a B grade or an A grade, there could be a $50 to $150, a month difference on, let's say, income from a per tenant basis. It's like, if you want to, be able to hit that delta and be able to go to the upper echelon of that, it's like, well, you've got to go with, these type of finish outs here. It may be a little over market what people are paying. You may be the only one out there, but there is a demand for that. It's just who's going to be the one that's going to put it out there first and dip their toes in the water.
Exactly. And even if you do it a little bit to test it, right?
Yeah.
Even if it's not, it's just a $25 increase or something like that, and the numbers can support it, obviously, then you're testing it out. And then if you upgrade any other units after that, that you can go to $50. Maybe there is a cap on that, but that is what's worked out before even doing any of the design, because your numbers, and the design is in lockstep with those numbers. It's not it's not a liability. It becomes another asset, your entire portfolio.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I could also, we're both on our soapboxes and,
no, you're starting to get my wheels spinning now. It's like, it's got to take me back to my days.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you left me to design something, it'd just be like a wood crate, right? With just wood shelves. It all look the same. I'd be, happy as a clam.
Right. but the buyer is the one, like people often design for what they think that they want, but the buyer is the one that makes the decision with their dollars.
100%.
So what advice can you share with our audience in terms of failures and challenges? I would call them learning experiences, and how they can overcome and maybe pivot or find a new path, or, find their way through the dark times.
You've got to be able to just really trust your intuition on it, and knowing that there's variables that are outside of your control, that doesn't matter really what you do. Because I experienced this whenever I lost. I was like, man, I've done everything. I've contacted everybody. I have not slept. Like, I have exhausted my resources. Then I ended up building out a whole nother, set of new connections that I still have with today. But I guess the greatest piece of advice is you just stay persistent. You just believe in what you're doing. And there's going to be a lot of noise out there. Like, there's a difference between like noise and signal. Like Steve Jobs, for example, he was had a lot of noise and signal, that 98% of him was signal, right? So we trusted his intuition. He went, and he actually built something great, but, nobody really ever hears about his pitfalls and the trials and tribulations, stuff that he went through to do that. And so everybody's going to go down their road, and it's not going to be a fully paved and finished road. It's going to come down to, like, how far do you really want to go? And I think that, as people go down these paths, they're going to find out that, what they went through really wasn't all that hard. When you actually reflect and look back on it, it's like, okay, I went through that. I wasn't able to pay my bills one point in time. My electricity went out, but I'm still here. And like where the challenges that have been overcome is, they seem scary in the sense, but really at the end of the day, they're not, because you don't have really much to lose. I mean, I think once you stop, you give up, and, that's where you defeat yourself. And really anybody who can defeat you is only you. Talk is cheap these days. People can say whatever they want. It might take you a little bit longer to do it, but at the end of the day, if you just stay persistent with what you are doing and you truly believe in it, doesn't matter what you're building, you're bound to get there. Like life is short in the sense, it's a mental game. That's all it is.
And it's the ones that can stay in the mental game and be persistent despite, I think there's always going to be voices of fear and voices of doubt, but it's not paying attention to them or not giving them precedence, I think.
Yeah. I mean, there's always going to be negativity and all these negative things. But it's not like it's ever going to go away. It's like, well, what do you really want to focus on? It's like, you could be in pain and you can sit around and, go through the pain, or you can go through the pain and actually progress and do something. That's the difference there. The pain is the naysayers, all the negative stuff that comes with it. Is, again, as long as you're moving your wheels and you're progressing forward, whether it's 1% a day or 0.5%, whatever it is, take that by 360 days. There's always a next step. There's always an incline to it. It just comes down to how bad do you want it.
I love that so much. I mean, I've always been told that I don't quit. And I think that there's something to say for those who build something, is that it's not that I was told that I would always succeed. I was told that I would never quit, right? And there's a very important nuance to say that there's always failure. There's always challenges, but it's the persistence to continue going that makes the difference.
100%. The journey is where it's at. Even from some of my mentors, the most successful guys, it's like, once you become successful or you hit like that threshold of a goal, whatever it may be, you kind of like figuring out like, well, what the hell do I do next now? Whether it's a successful exit in, a tech firm, or, you've wrapped up a portfolio development, like whatever it may be, it's always the journey, and you're the author of that journey at the end of the day. So you have the opportunity to write a better chapter than you did the day before.
I love that so much. So what is in your next chapter? What does the journey look like from here?
Real estate tech, which sounds really weird. 12 months ago, never would have thought. I mean, I just knew how to use like AI and stuff, but no, I think it's really looking at the inefficiencies of real estate and understanding that, and trying to build, products that can fit and help people and automate their current process. Like I have this other little project, I'll tell you real high level of what it is. When you do your presentation decks for your clients, I'm sure you may have a team that does that, and that team may use Canva. It may take them a couple hours to actually put together a full-fledged presentation.
No, it's more like days.
What if you could do that in 5 minutes?
That would be amazing.
What if you could take a deal room or connect your Google Drive into Deal Deck Pro, and it's got AI in it, and it's going to create you a 9 to 10 page brochure or marketing packet using AI, and just taking a couple of points and be able to build a very high-end brandable packet that would cost you fractions of probably what you're spending today, but save you days of time, and be able to do it in the matter of minutes, to where it just automatically knows your brand. It's editable, kind of like Canva, and you're simply just, typing in a couple of keywords, providing it a couple of documents, and then it just spits out a beautifully designed marketing packet.
That would be amazing. I mean, I definitely looked for something like that, even creating slides for a webinar, and maybe there's something out there, but I have not come across it. That would be amazing. There is within interior design specifically, or architecture, building out the plans, it's not just days, it's really weeks, if not months, because the assets that go into that presentation deck are the things that take the longest amount of time. So construction documents and finished packages and all that stuff. So it's but if I had that all ready to go, and I had something that could I could input that and it spit back, that would be amazing.
That's another small project that we're working on as well. It's just like, that's my next chapter is like, let's just go build cool things, right? Let's try to innovate. Let's fail. Like, let's go like fail on one of these. Not like it's not going to be a failure of, losing everything again. Maybe it is. But to me, it was like, I'll never, ever make that mistake again. But maybe it might divert me to something else bigger that I just wasn't aware of at the time, the way that I was just 100% real estate. Now it's like tech real estate. Like, what's next? I don't know. But yeah, I think if there's a difference that I can have and there's a technology that people can use to become better and make more money and become more successful and to be able to connect better, it's like, that's where it really is like the giving side of things instead of just, you just trying to build out real estate portfolios or whatever, which I'm obviously still going to do, but like that is where it is for me today, is like, just go build cool tech, right? Help people out, hear the pain points, and like, just go do what everybody else is not doing. Like, that's where I like to be. I like to be the guy that is just out in the middle of a freaking field while everybody else is, standing over here. Like, I like walking alone in that aspect because that's where the real creativity comes in, because there's no noise out there. I'm just listening to a signal.
Yes, absolutely. That is the blue ocean.
Yeah.
I love it. Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. What an incredibly insightful conversation we've had today. Can't wait to share this with our audience. And for anyone out there who's listening, how can they reach out if they want to connect?
Yeah, they can reach me by email or LinkedIn. I can share my credentials and stuff with you if that's easier. I can say it here, but it's Brady Irwin. I believe that's my LinkedIn, but I'll end up sharing that with you in an email, and happy to collaborate and to talk with anybody. If there's ideas or things that, I'm always open to, if there's a way that we can do something better, let's collaborate on that. I find that very, very valuable. So yeah, I'd love to share that and happy to, there's no stupid questions, and I'd love to connect with anybody and just, see if there's an opportunity to work together. Like, can I bring value to you at the end of the day?
Amazing. Thank you so much again for joining us.
I really appreciate it.
And looking forward to getting this out there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the opportunity.